12 years of silence stretched between us, no phone calls, no birthday wishes, no acknowledgement of my existence. Then, one March afternoon, a formal invitation arrived in cream-colored paper. My siblings, Cheryl and Rob, had organized a family gathering at our childhood home in Glen Arbor. The invitation bore Cheryl's signature in elegant blue ink. While Rob had undoubtedly managed the practical details, I studied the invitation beside my cooling tea, gazing through the window at bare branches that resembled outstretched hands frozen in supplication. I didn't respond immediately. They expected my silence anyway. When I finally arrived, the driveway overflowed with familiar vehicles: Rob's Tesla, Cheryl's Lexus, and a rental SUV. The same weathered wind chimes from decades past still hung above the entrance, though one tube had broken, creating a discordant, incomplete melody. Cheryl greeted me at the door, impeccably dressed in a blazer too sophisticated for a casual family weekend. Her embrace felt performative, lacking genuine warmth. "You actually came," she announced, speaking deliberately. "We weren't certain the invitation would reach you." I displayed the notepad I carried, the one they assumed I used for communication. "Since losing my hearing in 2012, she patted my arm with nervous energy, repeating that my presence would be beneficial for everyone. The interior remained unchanged: floral upholstery, the mantel clock permanently frozen at 11:38. Yet everything gleamed with fresh cleaning. Someone had placed flowers on the piano I once played, and lavender candles flickered throughout the corridors. In the kitchen, I found our mother, Doris, methodically arranging cutlery. Her movements had slowed, and her hair had turned silver white. When she noticed me, her smile wavered before settling into familiar detachment. "Susan," she said, "you haven't changed much." I wrote, "It's wonderful to see you," though she avoided eye contact. Dinner felt like strangers attempting conversation. Our father, Frank, maintained his usual quietude, occasionally mentioning Cheryl's career achievements or Rob's real estate success. He asked once if I needed a different chair, which I declined, still managing independently out there. Rob inquired, refilling his wine glass. His wife Karen remained silent, studying me with calculating eyes. "She's always been self-sufficient," Cheryl interjected, cutting her chicken with precision. "Living in Oregon, didn't even visit when Dad had his cardiac episode." The resulting silence belonged to the room, not to me. Later, alone in the guest bedroom, I unpacked deliberately. My phone rested beside the lamp, notifications disabled. I placed my functional hearing aids in their case. No one knew they worked perfectly now. The blank notepad waited on the nightstand, unused. Morning arrived with Cheryl's authoritative voice echoing through the hallway. "Breakfast in the sunroom at 9. Rob will review the estate arrangements over coffee." She orchestrated the gathering, like a corporate meeting rather than a family reunion. By the time I descended, Cheryl occupied the head position, her napkin folded precisely. Her husband Daniel stood behind her, monitoring his smartwatch. Rob gestured toward a mismatched chair at the table's far end. "We reserved the window seat for you," he said. Quieter location. 7 chairs surrounded the table. Mine lacked cushioning and armrests, positioned slightly lower than the others. Karen offered me a single piece of dry toast, explaining they weren't sure about my dietary restrictions. Cheryl launched into her agenda, beginning with the Vermont cabin. "It requires significant updates," she explained, consulting color-coded documents. "We're considering incorporating it into the main trust. With everyone's agreement, it simplifies future transitions." Frank cleared his throat. "Your Uncle Bill left that cabin to all 3 of you equally." I wrote slowly, "The deed specifies equal ownership." Cheryl glanced at my note, then at Rob. "Naturally, but you've been absent while maintenance falls to those present." Daniel chuckled. "It's about practicality, not fairness." I observed their conversation flowing around me, through me, past me. My eyes wandered to the mantel where an old 4th of July photograph remained, Cheryl in red ribbons, Rob already dressed formally, and me in the center holding an extinguished sparkler. Following breakfast, Rob took Dad aside for updates while Cheryl and Karen discussed party arrangements for Doris's birthday. I lingered in the kitchen, cleaning my plate while Doris applied hand lotion nearby. "You've preserved everything exactly as it was," I said aloud, my voice controlled and quiet. She looked up sharply. "I wasn't aware you were speaking again." The silence stretched between us. "I wasn't sure which version of you would appear this weekend," she added. I remained myself, I replied. She sighed deeply. Cheryl has worked hard maintaining family connections. She visited when we needed support. Rob handles all the documentation. You selected distance. I folded the dish towel neatly. I wasn't distant. No one invited me closer. She blinked as if this possibility hadn't occurred to her. That afternoon, Rob distributed packets labeled asset reallocation, my name misspelled on the cover. Just preliminary concepts, he assured us. Everything remains open for discussion. Inside, I discovered charts listing every family possession: the house, lake property, Vermont cabin, workshop, even mother's jewelry. Cheryl's and Rob's names appeared throughout. Mine was penciled in beside miscellaneous heirlooms. Frank hadn't looked up once during the presentation. In my room, I studied the documents extensively. Then I activated my phone's recording app and whispered, "They've reconstructed the family narrative. I'm merely a footnote in their revision." That evening, seeking tea, I found Rob in the study. The door remained slightly ajar, allowing his voice to carry. He paced while speaking on the phone, unaware of my presence. She's compliant enough. If we present it as Medicaid preparation, she'll sign without understanding the implications. Honestly, she's fortunate we're maintaining her name on the Vermont deed at all. Cheryl believes we should act quickly before the hearing situation resolves if it hasn't already. A pause, then low laughter. I know, but she's not mentally sharp anymore. Half the time she can't follow basic conversations. I stepped back, silently, my hand trembling as I activated the voice recorder. I pressed record, holding the phone against my chest until he ended the call. Sleep eluded me that night. The next morning, I drove to town ostensibly for allergy medication. Instead, I located a small brick office with faded window blinds. Howard Green, estate attorney. He'd represented Uncle Bill years ago and was the last adult to treat me with genuine respect. He opened the door himself, cane in hand, puzzled until recognition dawned. "Susan Blake," he said. "My God, it's been 25 years? Nearly 30, I corrected. "And I need assistance." I presented Rob's packet. He reviewed it silently, then listened to my voice recording. After replaying it, he set the phone down carefully and nodded. "I'll need to make several calls." By week's end, Howard had uncovered my fears confirmed. Trust amendments made 3 months prior, my forged signature on documents I'd never seen, email correspondence between Rob and a third party listing me as financially non-viable. "I can challenge this," Howard said, "but you must be prepared. They'll claim you misunderstood, that your condition caused confusion." "I'm not confused," I stated. "I've never been clearer." He studied me momentarily, then smiled, not with kindness or sadness, but with recognition. That evening, I returned to the house and approached the piano I hadn't touched since age 17. The keys felt cold and out of tune, some sticking, but sound still emerged. Behind me, I heard Cheryl laughing, Rob pouring wine, Doris calling to Frank about lighting the fire. And no one noticed the old folk song Uncle Bill had taught me one Vermont winter. When I finished, I closed the lid and went upstairs. On my nightstand, I placed Howard's documents and the recording device. Then I wrote one sentence for myself: "They didn't just forget me, they planned it this way." The following day, dissolved like steam from a teacup, quiet, slow, evaporating before anyone could identify it. I spent the morning outside, pruning an overgrown garden corner while Doris watched from a nearby bench. "You always enjoyed working with soil," she observed. "Never minded dirt under your fingernails." I didn't respond immediately. "You've changed," she continued. "You used to request visits home more frequently. After college, after you moved west. But when you received no response, you stopped trying. Cheryl always said it was best to let you be." I paused, meeting her eyes. "I called when Dad had his stroke. I left messages. You never returned them." She looked away. "You had your own life. We assumed you needed space. Space I never requested." A breeze scattered dogwood petals across her shoes. She didn't move. "I apologize if we weren't clear," she said softly. "You were always more sensitive. Your letters were emotional. We didn't know how to respond." "I wasn't requesting poetry," I replied. "Just presence." We sat in silence until she rose slowly and returned to the house, leaving me with the earth and the quiet I'd learned to inhabit. That night, I activated the recorder again. They never heard me, but I heard everything. The doors they closed, the words they withheld. I stared at the ceiling until shadows merged into one. Downstairs, a chair scraped, The heater clicked on. I remembered the first time I lost hearing. In my left ear at 28, just after mailing a handmade quilt to Cheryl's newborn son. No acknowledgement ever came. I recalled how I once played piano with my entire body, pressing weight into the keys, believing the house was listening. The night I stopped playing, rain fell steadily. I came home to find Rob packing Dad's records, Cheryl distributing task lists, and Doris announcing the broken freezer. No one inquired about my day. No one looked up. I remembered ascending the stairs that evening and packing a single bag. They didn't exile me, they simply allowed me to vanish. And I did, until now. For Doris's birthday dinner, Cheryl insisted on formal attire. Just a touch of elegance, she said, pinning a leaf-shaped brooch to our mother's collar. You only turn 75 once. The table displayed fine china, polished silver, and linen napkins folded into fans. Frank wore an oversized blazer. Rob opened wine with practiced efficiency, and Karen arranged seating without consultation. My name card remained at the end. No one offered a toast. Instead, Cheryl cleared her throat and smiled. We've all achieved so much, haven't we? She began. Mom, you've raised 3 incredibly resilient children. Rob's business is flourishing. I just became VP of Development. And Susan, well, she's back with us now, and that's what matters. I smiled faintly and reached for my notepad. But this time, I didn't write. I spoke. Actually, I'd like to say something. Silverware stilled. Rob blinked. Doris straightened but remained silent. I've been listening to all of you, I said calmly. More than you realize. I placed my phone beside the bread basket. One tap and the recording began. Rob's voice filled the space. She's cooperative enough. If we frame it as Medicaid prep, she'll sign without knowing what it is. A pause, then the low laugh. She's not sharp anymore. Half the time she doesn't even follow what's being said. The atmosphere transformed. Karen's eyes widened. Cheryl gripped her chair. Rob's mouth opened wordlessly. I stopped the recording. I spoke with Uncle Bill's attorney, I said. Howard Green confirmed my signature was forged on the trust amendment. You relocated my name. You reassigned what wasn't yours to give. Cheryl found her voice first. Susan, this isn't the place. We're celebrating, Mom. Why bring this up now? I turned to Doris. Did you know? She didn't answer. Did you know what they were doing? Or did you just look away as always? I didn't sign anything, she whispered. But you looked away. You always do. Rob attempted again. We thought you didn't care about that property. You've been gone so long. It made sense to remove a family member by paperwork. My voice remained steady. He exhaled sharply. Don't be dramatic. That word. Always that word. I stood slowly. This isn't about money. You took something else. You rewrote where I belong. And I want it back. Cheryl's voice rose. You think this earns you some kind of reward? You vanish for a decade, then appear with recordings and accusations? No, I said. I don't want a reward. I want the record corrected. Doris finally looked up, her eyes glassy. You were always too soft, too careful with people. You never knew how to play the game. I nodded. Maybe, but I've learned how to document it. I pocketed the phone and walked toward the hallway. Behind me, I heard Frank murmur, let her go. No one stopped me. I remained one final night, not from obligation, but to sleep beneath that roof, knowing they couldn't erase me quietly this time. By morning, Cheryl and Rob had departed. Karen hadn't said goodbye. The dining room was cleared of birthday decorations. The silence returned, but it felt different. This time it belonged to me. I found Doris in the kitchen stirring oatmeal. She didn't look up when I entered. I'm leaving, I announced. She nodded. I figured. I placed a sealed envelope beside the fruit bowl. It's from Howard. The amended trust documents originals, with corrections. She stirred once more, then stopped. Your brother won't appreciate this. I'm not doing it for him. A pause. You always wanted everything to be fair. No, I said. I just wanted to be seen. She looked at me, and for a moment her expression softened. Not regret, not warmth, just the outline of something that might have been. I never knew what to do with you, she admitted. You felt outside of us, even when you were small. I nodded. I know. She didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't offer it. Outside, wind moved through the trees as it had in every childhood season. Gravel crunched beneath my boots as I walked to the car. I started the engine, lowered the window, and looked back at the empty porch. Except for the wind chime with its broken tube. It made no sound. 6 weeks later, I returned, not to visit, not for another negotiation. I came to unlock a door I now legally owned. The Vermont cabin stood where it always had, pine needles thick on the roof, the stone path still uneven. No one had disturbed it. The shutters creaked when I opened them, like old lungs remembering to breathe. Inside, the air smelled of dust and cedar and something warmer, memory without pain. I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer beside the sink. The tin measuring spoons remained there. Uncle Bill had etched my initials on the smallest one, SB, not crossed out, not reassigned. I built a fire, brewed tea, and sat by the window. As snow began to fall, there were no voices now, no plans, no files, no signatures, just the sound of the place remembering me. And for the first time in years, I didn't need to be heard. If you've ever sat at a table where no one saw you, if you've ever been written out of a story you were born into, then you already understand how this ends. Not with revenge, not with raised voices, just one person standing quietly and walking away from the version they were never allowed to become. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to name names. But if you've ever been uninvited from your own life, just leave one word below the one they never let you say out loud. I'll read every single one, even the silent ones.